Hey everybody, this is going to be the tutorial that's going to show you how to make this ribbed crochet baby blanket. So for this Afghan, it's a baby size and it uses 3 colors that you can see here. I used a total of 7.5 skeins. I used 3 skeins of purple. I used 2 skeins for the gray and 2 skeins of white. So because the purple was my main color, I used it the most. It took 1 more extra skein. I don't know if you guys remember, but if you've been following my channel for a while, you may remember the 2 poncho cowl hood thing that I made. I used this stitch for it, and but it was done in the round. And someone mentioned that I should make a blanket using this kind of design. So that's what I did. I'm going to show you how to do this stitch in rows so that you can make your own. And it's basically a repeat. So I'm going to be showing you how to start it and then how to begin the repeat again. And then I'm going to show you how to do this border. And this border is very, very simple, but I wanted it to be a textured border because the whole blanket is so textured. So it's just a basic ribbed around the edge and everything. What you need to get started is a 5mm hook or a size 8 hook for the US, and 4-ply for the US, 10-ply for Australia yarn, and as many colors as you want. I noticed that about every one of these sections I used about 1 skein. And I see that I have 3 purple strips and 2 white strips and 2 gray strips. So essentially, yeah, it took 1 skein per, because it's so textured. It's a yarn eater. So this is a baby blanket. The size that I got at the end was, the length size was 35 inches or 90 centimeters. And the width was 32 inches or 81 centimeters. And I got, for the gauge, about 3 stitches per inch or 2.5 centimeters. So go ahead and grab your yarn and let's get started. I'm going to start by showing you, because this border is done at the end. So it's basically, I'm going to start you with the first row of the color. So pick your color that you want for the first strip. Okay, so the multiples of this stitch is 4 plus 1. Really simple. So you just want to do in multiples of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you reach your desired size, then stop with the multiples of 4 and just do that plus 1, and then you'll be ready to begin row 1. Okay, that's I think a good enough sample piece. So I did multiples of 4, so I'm going to go ahead and do my chain 1, and now I'm ready for row 1. For the size Afghan that I told you that I made, that one I showed you, I did a chain of 116 plus 1, or you can do 116 double crochet foundation stitches and then skip to row 2 of the pattern. It's up to you. So for row 1, we're going to double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3. Double crochet in the 3rd chain from the hook, and then you want to double crochet in all your stitches down your chain. So continue to double crochet down your chain for row 1, and when you get to the end, I will continue with you. So I'll see you back here in a minute. Okay, remember I had, for the small size blanket, 116 stitches plus 1, and it'll always be like that. So if you make a bigger size, it's whatever number you have before the plus 1 will be the amount of stitches that you should end with. So I had 116 stitches plus 1, and when you end this row, I should have 116 stitches. Now that ends row 1. For row 2, and for the entirety of this project, you will always chain 2 and turn. You always begin with a chain 2. So for row 2, we're going to chain 2 and turn. Now we're going to have what I call border row stitches. So you're never going to do a back post double crochet in the very first post, and you're not going to do a back post double crochet in the ending chain, only the stitches in between. These two will always be considered the border stitches. So the beginning will always be a chain 2, and you will always double crochet in your ending chain 2 to end your row. So for row 2, so not the first post, but the second post of the row, you're going to yarn over and you're going to do a back post double crochet. And you want to continue to do back post double crochet, which is going in between, pushing that post back and doing a double crochet. You're essentially going in through one space and then going into the next to push that post back. Okay, I'm coming to my last 2 stitches. So I'm going to do my last back post double crochet. Then I'm going to work a double crochet in the top of my ending chain. And that will end row 2. So that was row 2. So for row 3, and like every row, you're going to chain 2 and turn. Now for row 3, it's just going to be regular double crochets. The chain 2 counts as your first stitch, so in the second stitch of the row, you're going to start double crocheting. So do 1 double crochet in all your stitches, including your chain 2 at the end of your row. So continue to do that, and I'll see you at the end of row 3. Okay, so for the end of row 3, you are going to double crochet in your ending chain 2, and then as always, chain 2 and turn. And again, a reminder, you'll never use the chain 2 counts as a stitch, so you're never going to put anything in that first stitch, and also you're never going to front post or double crochet in the last stitch. Having said that, for row 4, the pattern is 2 front post double crochets and then 2 back post double crochets. So we're going to yarn over, and in the second post of the row, you're going to pull that up and work a double crochet on it, and that's how you do a front post double crochet. Yarn over, do that again for the next post, pull that up and double crochet. So that's 2 front post double crochets. Then yarn over, and on the post you'll put 2 back post double crochets in a row, just like you did with the 2 front post. Then the next stitch will be 2 back post. Then you're going to repeat that. That's why the multiples are 4, because you're going to have 2 and 2. So you repeat that for the row. Next 2 will be front post double crochets, and then the next 2 stitches after that will be back post double crochet. And you want to continue that down your whole row, and again at the very last stitch you'll double crochet in your ending chain 2. So I have my last 3 stitches here, just did 2 back post double crochets. So my ending will be 2 front post double crochets, and then I'm going to double crochet in the top of my ending chain 2, and that will end row 4. With rows 4 through 10, you should have 7 total rows of the back post and front post double crochets. So we just finished row 4. I wanted to grab a color that would stick out. So even though it looks like you've done 2 rows, it's only 1, because this previous one was just a double crochet row, remember? But when you start to push that post forward to do a front post double crochet, it pushes the previous double crochet row forward too, which is awesome, but it makes it difficult to count. You can lose count easily. So on this last front post double crochet that you did, go ahead and mark that, because you're going to be repeating for rows 4 through 10 this front post back post thing. So you know that, and here I go, almost messing up. It's this stitch. See, I almost put it on the previous one. And this is why a stitch marker is important. You want to make sure you mark the 4th row, which is the very last row that you did, and not the previous one. So this is row 4, and then now you'll have row 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, which will give you 7 rows total. The next, on the pattern it says rows 5 through 10, so 6 rows, because we already did 1. So total 7. So for the next 6 rows, you're going to be always chain 2 and turn. So for row 5, for instance, we ended with front row. So facing it this direction, they're back post. You want to always go with the flow. So it's back post this row, and these are front posts because they're sticking forward. So you want to back post on your back post, and you'll always front post on your front post. So these first 2 stitches will be back post. So these are front post, the next 2. So I will do front post on these next 2. Get in there. Then the next 2 are back post, so I'm going to do back post on those. So it's just a matter of just going with the flow. So continue to do that. Back post on your 2 back post, and front post on your 2 front post. And you'll be doing this for 6 more rows. So you have this marker here. So this is 5. So finish row 5, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So after row 10, come back here, and we'll continue together. Okay, I just finished the last stitch on row 10, and it may be easier to count the places in between where you have these little ripples here. So you can count 1, which is row 4, 2, which is row 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you should have 7 little ripples here, or you can count starting from row 4 and pick up the post itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now it's basically a repeat between your 7 rows of doing a front and back post double crochet. You will have what we did at the very beginning, which is a row of double crochets, which is row 1, then a row of back post double crochets, which was row 2, and then another row of double crochets, which was row 3. So those 3 border rows will always be done like that. So row 11, you'll chain 2, and you'll keep the same color that you have here, and then start double crocheting from the 2nd stitch of the row, because chain 2 always counts as your first. And again, you're going under both loops of the stitch, and you're doing regular double crochets. Whoops. So you'll be putting a double crochet in each stitch until you get to your very last stitch, and then you'll put a double crochet in your ending chain 2. So I just double crocheted in my ending chain 2, and this is normally where I would change my colors, but this is my tutorial yarn and I don't want to cut it, so I'm just going to grab my next color here. Okay, because this is my tutorial yarn, I don't want to cut it. So what I would normally do is I would cut my yarn here, and then you work your tail in later with a tapestry needle. Do the same with your yarn you're adding. Leave a bit of a tail so you can work it in later with a tapestry needle. Okay, then you want to chain 2 and turn. Now for, this is row 13. Row 13, you're going to be doing front post double crochets. So in your second stitch of your row, because your chain 2 is always going to be a border row stitch, you're going to be putting front post double crochets all the way down your row. And I'm realizing that I did this backwards. I did back post here. I should have done front post. It was probably when I began, I wasn't marking my Afghan, so I probably had an extra row, and I was probably like this on this side whenever I started this row that I'm doing now. But now that I'm marking it, I know exactly which row I'm on. Oh well, not that big a deal. If it's a bigger deal for you, then maybe you can do one more row of this before you start your previous row, and then you'll be on track. Oh, I'm already doing front post, back post. Just front post. And as you do all your front posts down this row, you're making that border on the back, which now is where it really matters, because you can see it because of the color. And front posts are so much easier to do than back post, so I'm going to stick with the front post. And I'm going to stick with marking every single row, because that was part of the design process that I learned was very important. So I'm getting to my last few stitches here. This is my last double crochet, and then single crochet in that ending chain 2. Then you want to chain 2 and turn. For row 13, you're going to be doing just regular double crochets. So starting in the second stitch of the row, because remember the chain 2 counts as the first stitch. So second stitch of your row for row 13, just put 1 double crochet in all your stitches. And this is always what the border row consists of. Consists of 1 double crochet done in your color, and then a front post double, then you'll change your color, and then you'll do a front post double crochet row, and then a double crochet row. So essentially you have double crochet, front post double crochet, double crochet between all your colors, well, during your blend to change colors. In other words, what I call these 3 are border rows. In between, you only have 1 out of the 3 rows that are the current color that you're on, and then you'll change and do your front post and then your row of double crochet. I hope that made sense, because it's made to make it easier to separate it out in your brain, because you'll be doing this quite a lot. Okay, I'm getting to my last few stitches here. This is my chain 2. Okay, that's row 13. So now it's going to start to repeat rows 4 through 13. And I'm just going to take you to start. So this is going to be a repeat of row 4. So chain 2 and turn. And again, you want to line up whatever you have down here to here. And I have 2, I start with 2 front posts here. So I'm going to have 2 front posts on this side as well. And then you'll have 2 back posts. Then alternate that, 2 front posts, 2 back posts. And remember, after this row, always after row 4 or the repeat of row 4, you want to mark that row that you just finished doing, just like we did before. So at the end of this row, make sure that you mark. Okay, I just got to the end of my row. And remember, after this first front and back post row, mark this very last row that you did and that last front post. And now you're going to do exactly what you did here. You're going to do 7 rows total. So you already did 1, so you need to do 6 more rows of going 2 front, 2 back. And remember, always chain 2, go with the flow. And then once you get your 7 rows done, keeping with this color, you're going to do a row of double crochets. And then you will cut and switch to the next color, whatever it's going to be. And then you're going to do your front post double crochets and then another row of double crochets. And then you're going to repeat this last row we just did. Again, don't forget to mark. So let me go ahead and get set up and I will show you how to do the border of this. Okay, when you repeat those total of 7 rows, you can count starting from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 rows of this back and forth. Then you'll chain 2 and turn. And now the next row is, starting the second stitch, is just double crochets. Now normally after this row of double crochets you would change colors, but since I'm going to be showing you how to end the Afghan, it'll be like the first row where you're not changing colors, but you're still going to do the border rows, those 3 rows I'm talking. I always tell you about the double crochet row, the front post double crochet row, and the double crochet row, but this time we're not going to be changing colors. So the row I'm doing now is repeat of row 12. Working with this thicker yarn can really be tiring on your arms, that's for sure. And it's worsted weight. Okay. Last few stitches here. Double crochet in the ending chain 2. That was a repeat of row 11. Row 12 is when we would usually change colors. But this time for row 12, since we're going to be ending our Afghan, you want to chain 2 and turn. So when you get to the end of your Afghan and you're not going to be changing colors again, you want to do a row of front post double crochets in the same color. No changing colors this time. So do your row of front post double crochets and I'll see you back here in a minute. Okay, I just did my last front post. Now I'm going to double crochet in the ending chain 2. Oh, I'm getting tired. Okay, so to end the row as well, I'm going to finish the border. So this is a repeat of row 13, which is the end of the repeat. When you want to continue this regularly, it's repeating rows 4 through 13. But just remember, when you're ending, just like I am now, the Afghan, you don't want to change colors. You'll be just sticking with, you'll still do the repeat, you just won't change colors. So continue to do that. Last row here, double crochets, and then I'm going to show you how to do the border. So I just finished my last row and now I'm ready to start the border. Normally I would cut my yarn and change it, but since this is my tutorial yarn, I really don't want to cut it. So choose whatever color that you want to use for your border and choose any corner, which is going to be the space between the first and last stitch. So you can choose here or down here, wherever you want to start. just choose the space in between the last 2 stitches. So I'm going to pretend that I did that. I'm going to go ahead and just chain 1. And I'm going to double crochet. You want to double crochet 3 in the corner. So 1, 2, 3. And you'll always double crochet 3 in any corner. And then the rest of your stitches will be double crochet stitches. But just keep in mind that you are doing double crochets, so each double crochet should have 2 stitches in it, because that's essentially 2. So this first area, which is my chain 2, I'm going to make sure I put double crochet in each one of those stitches. Then my double crochet here, next double crochet here will be 2 double crochets. Then I'm going to find my next side stitch and put double crochet. Let me get a little closer for you just in case you're having difficulty seeing. Grab up the next double crochet and put 2 double crochets in it. And you'll be doing this all the way around your project. And again, you'll be doing 2 double crochets in each of your side stitches until you get to this corner between those 2 stitches, and you'll put 3 double crochets in between there. And then of course you do your stitches on the underside, 1 in each stitch. Also the top, you'll be doing 1 in each stitch. It's only the actual side of your stitch that you'll be putting 2 double crochets on the side of each one of your double crochets here. So just keep continuing down your side, and I'll see you back here in a minute. Okay, so if you notice, there's a lot of pulling and ruffle looking, but it's because all this is pulling and it's tight. But as your blanket gets used, and especially after you wash it, it starts to lay a lot flat, a lot flatter than this big thick yarn is showing right now, especially when you use a worsted weight yarn. So anyway, I did 3 double crochets in this corner stitch, and then now I'm using the bottom stitches, and you're just going to want to put 1 double crochet in each of your bottom stitches. And then when you get to the end between these 2 stitches, you'll put your 3 double crochets. You'll go down the side just like we just did, and then since this is 3 double crochets at the end, you won't need to put 1 in the last. Just go down the side stitches, and then I'll show you how to end your row and start the repeat of the row 2, which will be the repeat. Okay, I'm coming to my last corner. I forgot, since I started here, I have 1 more corner here on the side I need to do. Okay, then I'm at the top. So now I'm going to just put 1 double crochet in all my top stitches. Oops. And then I'll get to the very end of my row here. This is the 3 in the corner, 3 double crochets. I'm going to skip that chain 1 there and just slip stitch in that first double crochet, or if you started with the chain 3 and 2 double crochets, just in your beginning stitch, slip stitch. And then you have your first row of your border. Okay, so for row 2, you want to chain 2, and you're going to do a front post in the very first stitch, and then you're going to do a back post. And that's essentially what you're going to do all the way around. Got a front post and then back post, and you should even out at the very end with the equal stitch. And we're not adding any stitches from here on out. We're going to create our front post and back post all the way around, and then for row 3, which is going to be our last row, I'm getting really tired, so I'm going to go ahead and just show you real quick. So you're just going to do that all the way around. You'll slip stitch in the beginning stitch, and then the last row, which is I should say the repeat, which is row 3. So you'll end up here, which is the beginning stitch, which is your first front post double crochet that you did. So again, you'll go ahead and chain 2, and then you'll front post double crochet in your front post double crochet, and then you'll just back post on your back post double crochet. You won't be adding or subtracting any number, and by doing this, it's going to flatten out this, like what you would call a warpy outside, because since you're not adding or subtracting any stitches on the outside, it'll actually straighten out your whole Afghan, and it'll make it look a lot more flat. But there's a limit, because then it will start causing issues. So you can't make this border row very many rows. So you can see how it starts to look. The repeat row is row 3. So you're doing front post double crochets in your front post double crochets, back post double crochets in your back post double crochets. And let me grab my piece. And I did this all the way around. So this would have been row 1, row 2. So I only did 3 rows. So completing this 3rd row here will be the end. And you'll just slip stitch in the beginning front post double crochet that you did, and then you'll end your border. I only did those 3 rows. I started thinking about doing a 4th, maybe a 5th, but then the fact that I wasn't adding any corner stitches, it actually started bending here on the corners, and I thought, okay, no, it's good. It's fixed whatever stretch that was happening, and as you can see, my pattern is relaxed. It lays flat. It also helps that it's worsted weight yarn and not this thick ply yarn that I'm using. But it looked good. It looked flat. And again, I would change colors every 3rd row. And I finished my Afghan using the same color that I began with, just to have it more of an even look. But this one goes from purple to white to gray, and then when I ended, it was after the white I did gray and then purple. So I had purple next to my gray here and white next to my purple here. And I still think it looks great. Take a look at the photos and everything, and you can make your decision. This side is the side that doesn't have the ripple, the border row, and this is the side that does. It adds so much more texture to put that border row in it, so I definitely recommend that you don't skip on that. So that is it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please don't forget to like and share and subscribe. It helps me out so much. And if you want to keep in touch with what's coming out with me, you can sign up to my newsletter. I post once a week on Sundays. whenever the new thing comes out. Either it's going to be a roundup or it's going to be a new pattern. I usually alternate every other week. And that's it, guys. I hope that you'll sign up and we'll stay in touch. Until then, have a wonderful day. Oh, almost forgot. I want to tell you, I'm also on Pinterest. Very important. I'm pretty active on Pinterest, so if you like Pinterest too, you can find that link down below and you can join my board there. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.